My friends, we are going to grow and get better together. This is not about me. This is about us. Welcome to Win Today with Johnny Martin. What's up, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Win Today with your boy, Johnny Martin. We are picking up right where we left off in part one of this episode with my friend, former Olympic swimmer from the country of Bermuda, Mr. Roy Burch. Roy, thanks so much for being back. How you doing, man?
Hello. Good. Thank you. I'm great.
When we left off, for those of you that didn't catch the first episode, hopefully you'll go back and listen to it. But when we left off, Roy and I were talking about how the Olympic journey started for him. And it really happened in the 2007 World Championships as he prepared for the 2008 games in Beijing, China. So, Roy, you I would assume, real good qualifying time at the Worlds, and now things get serious in preparation for Beijing?
Well, it was a little more complicated. So I was new, fresh out to the scene again. I hadn't competed at a major game since I was 16. And I had went to the Commonwealth Games, which were in 2002. And then for that 5-year period, so much had happened that when I got back to the World Championship scene, or that level, everything had changed. I mean, they were wearing different suits. Technology, had changed, and people were swimming much, much, much faster. I mean, it was a whole new world. So I ended up swimming personal best times there. I believe I broke the national record in the 100 free, and came pretty close to the 50 free. Swam a few other events. I ended up qualifying for the Pan American Games, which were later that summer. Did that. Broke the national record in the 50 free finally, did the 100 free, but just wasn't really competing with the best. So that was frustrating. You're like, what do I need to do to start competing with these guys? I mean, I'm going to these competitions and just getting smacked.
Which isn't that amazing when you think about it, though, because you are the fastest swimmer in your entire country in 2 events, and you're still feeling like you can't even hold a candle to the folks you're competing against. So it just goes to show you, people that are listening, the amount of talent that's out there, not just in swimming. This isn't just about swimming. If you think about your own life and who you're trying to compete against and where you're trying to get to in this life, these are the dudes that you're competing against. You're competing against the Olympic swimmers, the Olympic runners, the Olympic athletes, the Olympic level financial advisors. And so that's, I mean, this is what we're up against, man.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a hard process. The country Bermuda just wasn't that far along in the swimming world. I mean, when I broke the short course national record at 16, and at the time,
wow,
the world record was 21.6. I want to say that was the world record, and our national record was a 23.5. We were 2 seconds behind,
which is a lifetime in swimming, correct?
And in a 50 freestyle. I mean, you're talking about the best that our country had ever done was 2 seconds behind the world. And only until 2014 was when I finally broke that 22-second barrier short course and brought us down closer to what it was 20 years ago. But at that same competition, a Frenchman broke the world record. He went almost a second and a half faster than me.
Wow.
So it was like I was running with the world. I only had made up a little bit of time.
Wow.
And I was running or swimming as hard as I could to catch up. But it was like there was all this ground to cover.
That is amazing.
You just don't know. And it wasn't until after that period of time where I really figured out what mastery meant and what it meant to go at that level. But then I had my injury.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that when you talk about mastery and what it means to master whatever it is you're trying to chase. And in Roy's case, for those of you that are listening, it was swimming. But when I hear you talk about mastery, I think much more around the mindset of an elite level person. That's why, and I intentionally don't say athlete, because for the folks that are listening, I want them to chase their greatness and use their talent, strengths, and gifts to write their own story and master their journey. You talked about your injury, and we're going to get to that for sure. Tell us what the Olympic experience was like for you, though, in both Beijing, and then the second one was in where was it after Beijing?
London.
London. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there were such different experiences. It was like they're very contrasting of one another. Beijing was much more of me going to experience it and just like getting a lay of the land. I mean, I didn't have any ability to compete with the best in the world. I hadn't even, and looking back at it, I'm thinking that I could do well. You know, I'm feeling that way. I'm feeling confident. But in preparation, not having understood what kind of preparation it takes to have the highest level of mastery, I just had none of it. I mean, I didn't even do the race before the Olympics. The race that I did at the Olympics in Beijing, I hadn't even done that season long course.
Wow.
So it was absolutely like completely underprepared. And I mean, and it's strange that I still felt confident. I mean, it's a very strange process that I even chose to do it, because I was like, well, if I'm going to go all the way to China, I might as well swim 2 laps instead of 1. And that was the reasoning behind it. I mean, the kind of, when I think about the amateur like preparation, but the confidence of, you know, someone far beyond my ability, they just weren't meeting. So that caused its own frustration.
Oh, I'm sure it
and
did.
Now I can look at it and be like, okay, you know, that was silly that I had even those thoughts, but you just don't know, you know.
And isn't it amazing? And that's the truth. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, but isn't it amazing when we try to measure and quantify how hard we work or how well we prepare, that it changes so much. And your idea of preparation and mastery now, and I can't wait to talk to you about it, is probably much different than what you thought being well prepared was as an Olympic athlete.
Oh yeah. I mean, the gradient is we're not even on the same continent. I mean, right now I look at it as climbing Everest, whereas before it was just kind of going up a hill.
Sure. And I bet you for the first experience, I would imagine just being a young man representing your country, taking it all in, taking that Olympic experience in, wearing the colors of your country. I mean, the amount of pride and honor. And, it still must have been, despite the fact that I'm sure, based on what you're sharing, you didn't shatter any records. It still must have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I tend not to speak on that sometimes. It's just I really enjoyed it. I mean, I loved it to death. Although I had a terrible swim, I didn't even go a best time. I got to meet Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, basically Dwayne Wade. All of those basketball players, they hung out around our dorm because Bermuda was stacked in one of the USA dorms. So above me was Team USA in like 5 stories, the next 5 stories above me, and in the dorm next to me. So
that's pretty cool.
Just in the USA. So I'd see like Shawn Johnson, who was the top gymnast all the time. She would be coming to the dorm right next to us, and then I would see, Roger Federer. I'd see Serena Williams and Venus, and you'd see these people, and you're like, whoa, like we're just here, and you're eating over there, and I'm eating over here, and we're all out here competing for the same thing. Clearly, they're at a higher tier. It's almost like being on the most exclusive college campus in the world. It's the best athletes around, and everybody's enjoying each other in a different way, and you get to see these amazing spectrums. The tallest person, or one of the tallest athletes in the world, and then one of the shortest athletes in the world, both winning gold medals or something, and
what
wrestlers.
What an amazing way to put it too. Just I like how you framed it, like the most prestigious college campus relative to athletics on planet Earth, and everybody is there at the same time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really a unique experience in that way, and the ceremonies and the culture, or the traditions, things like that. Beijing really blew that out of the water. I mean, they spent so much money I left there with so much free stuff from my room and just different, like they did so many things. They just made it a total experience. You felt like you had accomplished something. And even going to shops, I mean, you wear around a tag, even going to shops, they shut the shop down and catered to me. And I'm not a rich guy. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing.
Right.
But it was just because I was there, and they were excited to have an Olympian come to the shop.
Sure.
How
was if we fast forward a little bit, how was your experience in London?
London was a very different experience because I went in feeling like I was more prepared. And although I was more prepared and I was much stronger, much smarter athlete, much better swimmer, but I still hadn't had the time that I needed. And there was much more cultivation to be done. So I went into London highly focused, but coming into the final parts was very difficult. That's where we went to London, or we went to England, and we were in, some boring part of England, and my training camp there was alone, and there wasn't a lot of energy, and I wasn't swimming that great. It was just this didn't feel good going in. It didn't feel like I was going to the Olympics. It was just that team atmosphere wasn't there. Having other swimmers around or other people to work off of. And I'm sure you understand that very well.
Absolutely.
It's like just having the people around to cultivate your energy with them and do things that help you jive and get to your rhythm. None of that was there. So
yeah, environments are contagious one way or another. You surround yourself with people that where the energy is high, and there are people that share the same goals and vision, and they're about getting after it. You naturally are going to bring your A game every time you show up and train. And if you're, that's why we talk all the time on the show about you got to be real selective about who you choose to spend your time with, because either way it's contagious,
Yeah, exactly. And if there's not enough learned to cultivate it on your own in those kind of situations, it just doesn't work very well. I know other athletes went through similar situations, but my training situation was very different, and that brings up a lot of details when I start to think about performing there. But regardless of that, it was a fantastic event. Again, I got to be around some of the best athletes in the world. Seeing a bunch of the same Olympians that I'd already seen. So you kind of get in this mix where it's like, okay, if you went to 2000 and you went to 2004, you'd probably end up running into most of the same Olympians.
Sure,
right?
Of course.
Or 96, 2000, there's that little bit of shift. So 2008, 2012, there was much of the same people. So you end up being more comfortable. You know what you're dealing with. You're not so celebrity starstruck. And those kind of things. So I ended up doing fairly well. I got 24th, which is better than anybody from the country had done, and I had wanted more for myself. So it was a little bit frustrating even to go my best, but I knew that I could perform I knew that I could do my best in the highest environment, or in the top environment, which was something good to overcome, I felt.
Oh, no doubt. And I think when again, we were talking about perspective, but when you keep things in perspective, and if you look at all the people of your age throughout the entire world, to say that in that given year I was the 24th best male swimmer in that event on the entire planet is pretty damn impressive.
Thanks.
What I want to do, Roy, is because I know that one of the things you were preparing for the 2016 games, and in your preparation and training, you suffered a horrendous and horrific injury, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but ended your competitive swimming career. And I think, again, part of that whole journey that we've talked about since the beginning of this, where we don't really always understand it when it's happening, but kind of puts us in the place that we need to be. I think that injury really has catapulted you to do a lot of the work that you're doing now. So tell us, and for those of you that are listening to this, it's crazy when you think about how this injury occurred in preparing for the Olympic Games. But tell us about that, and kind of then I really want to spend the rest of the time getting into that mental side of the mastery that you were talking about before.
Well, we had just completed our kind of overtraining cycle. We were really pounding it out for weeks. It was about 12 weeks, and we were doing an adaptation week. We had just arrived back from a training camp in Bahamas and clinic, and we just had this wonderful time. It was a really high, and at that point, I was like swimming well all the time. I was all my numbers, everything. I was hitting everything, just on. And I was excited because I had already been doing better, and then I was still getting better from my best. And
it's so awesome to see that progress. That's the best.
And I finally got a look at that. But so on that adaptation week, it was a Friday. I'm in the gym, and we had just finished doing some dynamic warm up, and then I was like, wanted to be athletic, so I started dunking. And next thing, I wanted to try an alley-oop off the backboard because I just felt my jumping felt good, and I felt stronger than I had ever been. So I sent the ball up to the backboard, and as I took like my run up to jump and get it, on that first step to jump, I felt like someone pulled a carpet out from under me, and like I just went flying in the air, like I slipped, and my legs come up like above my head, and I land on my back, and then my knees crash down like I'd been shot or something. They were just limp. And so I balled up, and then I was like, no, that doesn't feel good. So I shoot my legs out and pull up my pants, and the next thing I'm looking at my kneecaps up on my quads. And
wow.
I'm like, are they supposed to be up there? Like,
wow.
Is that, you never really look at your kneecaps, but I'm like, that looks a little high.
Oh my goodness.
It was I definitely wasn't laughing at the time, but when I think about it like that, I'm like, I didn't even realize that it had happened. I was just thinking,
yeah, you're in shock.
That they needed to be slid back in, and I could get back in the water, and I couldn't get up, and they helped me up, and next thing I know, I'm getting ready to pass out. They were like, do you want to call an ambulance? I'm like, definitely don't call an ambulance. Just put me in somebody's car and drive me to the hospital. I didn't want to admit that I was seriously hurt. By the time I got to the hospital, they had to rush me in to get x-rayed right away. X-rays come up on the board when I'm in the room. The physician's assistant comes in, and when her eyes blew up open, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, oh my God, she knew it was bad without words.
Yeah, that's never a good sign when the medical professional looks at the x-rays and their eyes pop out of their head.
Yeah, because it's both knees and both kneecaps are way out of place. And I couldn't tell. I'm sitting there looking at it like, yeah, that just looks like you can just pop that back in there.
Sure.
And that's just not the case. I mean, the doctor comes in and he looks at me and he's like, I'm going to fix you up real nice. You're going to have to get surgery. I'd love to do it tonight, but we can't get you a spot. So they had to do emergency surgery early the next morning. And when I woke up, and the kind of pains I felt when I woke up, I was like, that's it. It's good.
You knew. It. I mean, you knew at that point, Roy, that you were done.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't stop, but I had to go through my whole recovery.
Yeah, which I did a lot of reading and research on it. That in and of itself was pretty amazing. Just getting back into the pool for the first time. I saw a video clip of you. You probably remember this well, but I saw a video clip of you walking or not walking. You were using crutches to actually get to the pool. I think the first time you ever entered the water on your own to start to try to swim again.
Yeah, I had to wait. I had to wait to walk. So there was like about an 8-week period where they said no water at all because of the wounds and that, and I couldn't walk. So that was obviously an issue. So I had to relearn to walk, wait till the wounds were sealed, completely healed, not get any infection.
Sure.
And then I could get in the water. So I could kind of barely move. I was so weak, so fragile, and I just got in and just kept swimming. I mean, I couldn't push off the walls. The water felt good.
Sure.
So I just did what I could. And one of the quotes I had come across at the time was that one of the greatest mistakes a man could make is doing nothing because he could only do little. And So my purpose each day was, even if it was something little, it would eventually amount to something big over the time period. And I just spent my days grinding. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever I could do was going to be done. So I could hardly sleep. I slept on my stomach, and now I had to sleep on my back. All these different things changed. So, it was a lot to be done physically that I would knock out.
Man, I love hearing that though. That's the kind of stuff that inspires me too. The fact that doing something is always better than doing nothing, regardless of your limitations. And I
Yeah.
think probably, and I'm guessing you can certainly fill in the blanks for us, but I'm guessing that through that injury and the setbacks that came with that injury, and finding out that you aren't going to be able to swim in your third Olympic Games, I'm sure to a large degree that has helped you figure out the mental side of not just athletics but life. And so I want to get into that a little bit. You talked before about mastery. What does that mean to you now?
Well, it means it has a lot of different tiers, but mainly for me, it's about details, taking care of your movements, understanding your body and what you need to give it or what you need to practice, that's going to get you to the next level, and how you're going to explore that. And I believe that most people, for the most part, people know what they need to do or what they haven't been doing in order to improve.
Totally agree.
And they say it all the time. People are always like, yeah, I should be doing this. I know I should be doing that. I should be reading or something. And it's like, I just stopped saying that and just started doing the things. And I had kind of already realized my potential, or I felt like I realized my potential in what I was capable of in the sport before the injury. Now, so I had come through this whole process, and once I came through, I had got injured, so I just used everything that I had learned, and I had a fragile body, so now I had to be highly careful with myself. And so it came down to understanding my levels of kind of output and how far down the rabbit hole I could go, how deep could I push myself without stepping over the edge. And I just got really good at pushing that line forward and improving, week to week, really, month to month. There was measurable improvements. There was always something that I had gotten better at, and I was getting stronger. So, it was like just meeting those kind of checkpoints and being honest with myself, being truthful that, like, this is where I'm at right now. And in order for me to be at this place, I need to cover all of these bases, and none of them can be left uncovered, or it's not going to work. We even had go ahead. Sorry.
No. Please keep going. Please.
Oh, we had different access to technology that most people don't have access to. I had this unit that measured my nervous system, that I could track my body in the morning, or my nervous system recovery in the morning, and figure out how I needed to warm up properly, and prepare my body, or how much effort I could distribute, where it needed to happen. The details were just insane. We had a block that measured our output of power through all our limbs, how small the hole was that we cut out in the water, our time at a high accuracy. So I had access to a lot of different stuff. And on top of that, the Pilates that I was doing probably took me over the edge, along with the trainer that I had.
I saw some of that work you were doing. That was pretty awesome.
There was a lot.
I just think all of the, certainly having those resources at your disposal in the way of the specific training mechanisms is phenomenal. But for me, just in listening to you, and I could listen all day, the biggest takeaway, I think, on the mental side of things is we all have these things that we know we should be doing or know that we shouldn't be doing. And then you said something that followed that I think is critically important for everybody to really learn and grow, and that is you have to be real honest with yourself. So it's easy to say all of the things that we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, but when you take those and take them from word to action, and then you self-evaluate every day and say, okay, was I really the guy or the gal today that I set out to be this morning, or have I just put a bunch of words behind very minimal action. So you just start by doing, which I think is just a great takeaway for everybody, whether it's athletics, training, work, relationships, raising a family. We all have those things in our lives. But I do agree with you 100%, man. I agree that most of us, I think for the most part, know what we should be doing a better job of. And I think most of us also know what we shouldn't be doing as much. It's a matter of now doing those things or not doing those things.
I totally agree. And I also, just thinking on that point, I mean, when people are being honest with themselves, it's like, if you don't really want that goal, then you don't have to say it.
That's right.
Sometimes I run into these situations where people say they want this, they want that, and I'm just like, do you? You know? Like,
that's right. Because your actions aren't reflecting that.
Yeah, and it's just like, you don't have to say these things. Or why is it that you want those things? What do you understand about that that's going to help you in your life?
And I think a lot of people verbalize those because a lot of us live in this with this idea that if I say it, that means I'm closer to it happening. You know, I lived that way for a long time. If you talk about how good you are and how much work you're doing, even though you're absolutely lying to yourself, a lot of people may actually believe it. But the ones that are closest to you can see right through the BS. And at the end of the day, the person that stares back at you in the mirror is the critic that matters the most. And that's really when my life changed too, is when I did exactly what you just started talking about, man. And it was, you know what? I've been talking about it for a really long time, but I'm not really doing much about it. And my life changed tremendously, absolutely changed tremendously, and got so much more powerful when I started to put action behind all of the things that I was hoping would happen by just waiting with another wake up, you know?
Definitely.
So one of the things I want to do before we wrap, pal, and you've been amazing to talk to. There's so many takeaways for our guests. One of the things I ask of all my guests, I'd like to ask of you as well. In your life as a coach, a husband, father, family man, across the board, what are some non-negotiables for Roy Burch?
Personal accountability is stepped up as one major. And I think just things that are involved with that, no blaming. I really try to do my best without blaming other people for my own shortcomings or things that I need to step up on. And I really just try to be consistent and open and express love. And I think that's a non-negotiable for me as family. Is like we us understanding one another, and we're expressing love as all the time, and we're here to cultivate one another, and we're not going to blame each other or someone else for our own faults, and we're going to do our best to help each other understand what it is that we're going through or where we want to go. And I started to go down that pathway of what the non-negotiable means, but really it comes down to that personal accountability for me, and no blaming. I mean, there's probably more, but I think that one stands out to me as the most. I actually was thinking about that a lot when you had initially presented that to me. I was thinking about that a lot.
Yeah, and the reason I ask it of all my guests is because when I started to work on changing my own life and creating my own ethos, one of the things that I really thought was important to look at was what are the things in my life that are non-negotiables. And I love the ones you shared, starting with the personal accountability, but also the piece about cultivating other people's journey, especially in your family, but everybody, and to come from a place of love first, even when that's really hard sometimes, especially in the world that we live in today. So I think it's a beautiful, beautiful message, a beautiful way to end. You could find my friend Roy Burch on Twitter at @R Roy_Burch, and on Instagram at Roy_Burch. My friend, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the podcast today. Wish you and your family continued blessings and success, and I know we'll be in touch down the road. Thank you very, very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and much blessings to you and your projects.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, you've been listening to another episode of Win Today with your boy, Johnny Martin. As always, be good to those you love. Let them know you love them. Have a great day. Thank you to Seven Roads Media and Cloud9 Marketing Group for co-producing the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Without you, I cannot continue to do what I love. You can follow me personally on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Real John C. Martin. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with comments and questions after each episode. Your comments push me to get better every day. As always, thank you for your continued support, and don't forget, win today.